Hello YouTube. Whoop, I gotta get rid of that join button there. This is Mahadeva. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about the 5 key secrets that you need to know if you want to escape the matrix. We've got a lot to get to. This is a very deep concept. But the first thing that I want to ask you is, first and foremost, do you want to be happy? If you decide that what you want is to be happy, then you have to make that the most important thing in the universe. If you want to be happy, you have to be willing to sacrifice everything to get it. Even what you think happiness is, you must be willing to let go of that. Before we go any further, all of these links are here for you to check out. Please don't ask me questions about how much is this and how do I get that. The links are here. Go check out the links. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell button. All right, so let's just get right on into it here. What are the 5 keys to the secret vortex? I guess before we get to the keys, let me explain to you something. Everything that you've been hearing about the matrix is true, partially. That's the problem with spiritual truths. You know, most of the time they're given and or understood or seen in partial truth. So it is true, you do live in a matrix, you are trapped in a matrix. And it is true that in order to fully become awakened, you must escape this matrix. What that matrix is, that's a whole other level of discussion. You are also correct if you believe that you have been lied to, manipulated, that you have been programmed, hypnotized. All that is also partially true. And you have to awaken to all of those things. But what you haven't been told is that the nature of this matrix has everything to do with you. That you, the one thing that you have been either told or that you have made assumptions about based on the information that's been coming in, also based on your experience, your gut instinct, your experience that tells you that they're holding out on you, that they're doing it to you, that they're lying to you, that you are trapped, that this world is not real, that there's something beyond it. All of those instincts are accurate. But the assumptions that you make are inaccurate. And the assumptions that you make are that it is outside of you, it is big and you are small, and that you don't have any power. That's part of the, number one, that's part of the lie, and I'm using lie in quotes, but that's also the mistake that you make. That's part of the matrix. The matrix is set up so that you will make mistakes about the nature of the universe and the nature of your relationship to the universe and the nature of who you are. The matrix does not work if you know the secrets. Once you know the secrets, the matrix stops having power over you. It's really quite an amazing thing. And so again, let's get back to the original question. Do you want to be happy? And are you willing to do, and are you willing to let go of everything? Are you willing to die in order to achieve happiness? If the answer to that question is yes, then I think I can help you. All right, so let's just go ahead and take a look at the 5 keys to the vortex here. So these are the 5 key secrets to escape the matrix via the left-hand path, heart chakra vortex. All right, so first let's talk about that. So I don't need to go into explaining to you what the matrix is, your experience of it. You already know what that is. I don't need to explain to you the need to escape. You already feel that. So I don't need to explain that to you. But what you may not understand is that the matrix itself, as well as the exit to the matrix, is in the heart center. The heart center is either your liberator or your prison guard. This is the nature of duality. The nature of the matrix is to live in duality. And so the challenge is how to live in that state where you merge the two opposites. And because that's the only way the exit to the matrix appears. You have to be able to bring those two opposites together. When you live in one or the other, the heart chakra becomes a prison. The vortex that is the escape from your limited reality becomes your prison if you don't have the ability to merge the two aspects of duality. So hold that in mind. Remember that, anyway, we'll get to it. Let me just get to the key secrets here before I start babbling on. So, whoops, that's not what I want. I want this. So the 5 key secrets to escape the matrix via the left-hand path, heart chakra vortex. First one is internal versus external locus of control. All right. The majority of you listening to me, you operate from an external locus of control, which means that you are a slave to your experience that it's being done to you. You see yourself as this tiny little being in this huge universe. You see yourself as this tiny, helpless little being surrounded by all of these larger, more powerful beings and forces. And that's one of the reasons you're trying to escape, is because when you try and go up against all, time, death, governments, elites, whatever, it's all the same. It's all the same. When you were a baby, it was your parents. Your parents were both God and the devil. And you were helpless, literally helpless, as you sat there you were helpless to these powers that were much stronger than you. You had this body that had all of these feelings and reactions and impulses, and you were helpless. You couldn't help but react to those impulses, and you were absolutely dependent upon these giant beings to help you modify, like the impulse of hunger or sleep or cold. Your diaper needed to be changed. I mean, these impulses that were happening in your body, you were completely powerless, and you were totally dependent on these giant beings to do it for you, to give you a place to live, to give you food, to give you love, to give you clothing. I mean, you were completely helpless. And so that is a good example of external locus of control. So you, just by being human, were taught to believe that you had to manipulate everything around you in order to get your needs met. So you became a narcissist. All babies are narcissists. Narcissists are completely dependent upon everything outside of them. You must love them, you must respect them, you must meet all of their needs, you must do exactly what they want. Otherwise, they become furious and they are very controlling. I mean, this is what serial killers, that's why serial killers are always narcissists, because they end up needing to objectify people, treat them as objects for their own personal enjoyment. So that's an external locus of control. It means that everything outside of you. And so the desperate, like again, serial killer is a good example. By objectifying and dominating and ultimately killing their victims, it gives them this feeling of control, that they have control over something, even if it's the ending of your life. It gives them some feeling of, I have control over my existence. And so people who have an external locus of control either are controlling and are feeling controlled, both at the same time. An internal locus of control says that you have control over your reality. You have control over your destiny. That when something happens, your response isn't to say to yourself, those people did this to me and those people did that, or this problem, or the weather, or politics, or the gods, or I can't help it. It's I have an allergy. It's that's external locus of control. Internal locus of control. Something happens. The response is, what can I do differently to get what I want? Internal locus of control says, I can achieve what I want. I may not know exactly how to do it, but I'm the one that determines my destiny. I'm the one that determines what happens to me. And that is just simply a state of mind. You can have two people in, a prisoner of war camp. You can have two people as prisoners of war. The person who has the external locus of control will feel miserable and will be angry and upset and will feel like their life is over. They have no control over what's happening, and they have evidence for that because they are prisoners of war. Somebody who has an internal locus of control will be thinking to themselves, there's no such thing as a perfect system. There is a key to finding out how to get out of here. I can make that decision. As long as I keep my eyes open and I look for the opportunities, I'm going to find a way out of here. There's going to be a way for me to escape. And so in terms of your life, by the way, this is why people are flipping out over, calling the pandemic a plandemic. This is one of the reasons why people are nowadays, there's just, people are so into conspiracies. That's an external locus of control. That's people who feel it's being done to them. And so they have to figure out, they come up with ways to explain to themselves how vast this conspiracy is to completely control everything in their lives. And obviously I have an internal locus of control because that's the first thing I say is, drop the whole conspiracy thing. I'm not saying conspiracies don't exist. That's not the point. The point is that I have internal locus of control. I decide what happens to me. I am the one who has the ability to create the reality that I want. I may not know exactly how to do that, but I get to make that choice. So it doesn't matter whether conspiracies exist or not because, you just replace one with another. So for those of you who are really into again, if you're watching this because I'm telling you how to escape the matrix, there's a pretty good chance that you have an external locus of control. If you were really attracted to the title of this, Escaping the Matrix, I need to escape. So the first thing you need to do is to change your locus of control. And that means making a frightening assumption. So remember what I said to you in the beginning. My question to you is, do you want to be happy? Because if you want to be happy, then you have to be willing to die to everything. Now, your view, your philosophy about life in terms of locus of control is not optional for you. So there's no shortage of people that I've run into since I've been teaching where I say, hey, this whole idea that it's being done to you, that's actually part of the lie. You have control. You chose this. Whatever has happened in your life, the family that you were born in, the circumstances that you were born in, whatever is happening to you, that was your choice. People get so bent out of shape and they'll want to argue with me. And of course, what they do is, they don't realize it, but they project how victimized they feel, and they project how tiny they feel by the examples that they give. And they almost always use the examples of some third world infant who's born in some third world country, with some physical deformity, or they'll talk about little kids that are abused. And they'll use that and they say, what about those little kids? Are you telling me they chose to come into this? Now, what I don't like about that is that, if I were to say to them, did that happen to you? Are you a deformed child born from a third world country who was abused? There's going to be no to most, if not all, of those questions. And so that's a cheap way out. They're finding what they believe to be the most victimized person, saying, what about them? When in reality, they're talking about themselves. That's how they feel. You look at them, they don't look that way. That bothers them. So they have to grab something else to symbolize how they feel. But when I tell people, look, you're responsible. You created it. The good news is you can fix it. They get very upset. And the reason why they get upset is because their survival mechanism is to really invest in the idea that somebody is doing it to them. That would take multiple videos to explain why people become attached to the idea of being a victim. And while they'll, given the opportunity, they'll kill me in order to get me out of the way so that they can hold on to that narrative. Bear in mind, I'm not minimizing anybody's pain or difficulties. I'm not saying there aren't pain and difficulties in people's lives. But again, you have two people in prisoner of war camps. One of them has an external locus of control and they give up and they die. They just wither away and die. And then the other person, figures out, says, I have control over this. I have control over my destiny. I'm going to figure a way out of this. And they survive against incredible odds because they believe that they're the ones that make the decisions about their lives. So if you want to be happy, you got to get rid of your attachment to the belief that there is an external locus of control, that something outside of you is determining your life. So that's the first key. That's one of the hardest. If you can't get past that first key, you might as well just stop watching this video right now. If you are infuriated, if you are offended at the thought that I'm telling you that you are the source of your own misery, that you've created everything in your life, even though I know you don't see how you did that, if that infuriates you and offends you to such a degree, and you're not willing to die to that attachment, if you're not willing to see how you need to feel victimized, I know you don't know that you need that. I know you don't know that yet. But if you have that feeling and you're offended and you're unwilling to go through the death of releasing that, you might as well stop watching this video right now. Because if you can't get past that, the rest of what I tell you is going to be meaningless. Even if I give you, literally hand you the key to the vortex of the matrix, you will not be able to use it because you haven't even begun to accept this first death that you must experience, which is that everything is coming from you. All right? So that's the first key, is understanding internal versus external locus of control. All right, now let's talk about the trap of the heart chakra. So in case you haven't figured out by now, the heart chakra is both the source and the escape of the matrix. All right, so I can see out of the corner of my eye there's a lot of people dropping comments. So let me explain to you how this channel works if you're new to the channel. This is a question and answer. The best thing to do is to wait, listen to what I'm saying before you ask your question. Ask your question based on what I'm talking about. And second of all, if you're just dumping your opinion, I'm going to scroll past it. Best thing to do is to ask a question. You write the word question and I'll answer it. But wait, you can't be writing a question, especially if it's about something else, and listening to what I'm saying at the same time. So take your hands off the keyboard, take your hands off of your phone, listen to what I'm saying, and let your questions come from what I'm talking about. All right, so the 5 keys, number 2, what was it? The heart chakra. Whoops. The heart chakra is both the trap and the vortex out of the matrix, out of being trapped. The heart chakra is both at the same time. It is your jailer and it is your greatest healer. So the heart chakra, people want to open up their third eye. They think if they open up their third eye, it'll somehow give them release. It won't. I've asked people this. They'll ask questions. How do I open the third eye? Is that my third eye opening? I'm like, well, why is that important to you? Well, because if I can see, outside of this 3-dimensional reality, if I can see the nature of things, then I'll have power. I'm like, who said that would give you any power? That's like, living in a prison and somebody goes and gives you the map of the prison and says, yeah, here's your cell and here's the other cells and here's the 7, gateways and here are all of the snipers and here are all the guards, and all you'll be able to do is just see that you're trapped and you can't get out. It's not going to give you anything. Seeing with your third eye doesn't give you anything in terms of your ability to leave. You could have perfect spiritual vision to see all levels of reality and still be completely trapped. You don't realize it, but when you want to open up your third eye, you're really thinking that you can think your way out of your misery. So people think if they know, if they have knowledge. So there's a lot of people who think they're following a spiritual path and they have all of this knowledge. They have all of this intellectuality, and they're going to want to sit down and have a beer and talk about the nature of reality and philosophy, and it's not going to do anything. It's at best it is a crutch for the ego, so that the ego can feel like it has power because it has knowledge, but it's nothing. Like I said, you're trapped in your cell. The cell door is closed. You don't have the ability to open it up. Knowing the dimensions of the cell and that it's locked doesn't help you to get out. So the heart chakra is really what you need to understand. So the heart chakra is about things of the heart. Things of the heart has to do with wanting to be loved, wanting to be nurtured, wanting to belong, wanting to connect. This is where you need to be spending your time analyzing. And as we've talked about before, the heart is the container for the soul. So what I mean by the heart is the heart center here, in the middle of your chest. And so the heart center, as I said, will either trap you or liberate you. And one of the ways to figure that out is to understand what it is that you're attached to. But the way that the heart center works is that there is this field of energy. It's the most powerful energy in the universe, by the way. Again, you're looking outside of yourself, you have an external locus of control. There is nothing outside of you that will even come close to the power that is in this container of the soul. It's the most powerful energy in the universe. It's more powerful than the gods themselves. You know, lightning, the element, the energy actually that surrounds the heart is lightning. And it's focused inward. And lightning, I don't know what somebody can look it up if they want, but lightning itself is, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of times hotter than the surface of the sun. Lightning is even more powerful than the sun. The electromagnetic force, which is associated with thunder and lightning, the electromagnetic force is, I don't know what it is, 10 to the 34th power times stronger than the force of gravity. So this power of lightning, this power of thunder is more powerful than anything. It's used to fight against evil spirits. And that is symbolic. Evil spirits represent being trapped in three-dimensional reality. That's whenever you see, watch a scary movie and you see the demon or the ghost, the reason why it's so frightening to you isn't because it's supernatural. It's because you understand on a deep level that that being is trapped. It's trapped in its own limitation. That's why it's so angry. That's why it's so dark. That's why it's rotting. It's trapped. And so the freedom that comes from the power of lightning is why lightning is used to fight against negativity. So if you understand what the cleansing of lightning means and you apply it to yourself, then you can free yourself. But the heart center itself is a prison. We can look at it this way. We can even say it's a prison for the soul. And perhaps this is what you experience when you feel trapped, is that you're intuiting that your soul is trapped in this physical body. That's why, like the Gnostic religions. If you haven't watched my videos about Gnosticism, watch it. If you're coming onto my channel like you're new and you think that I'm going to think it's cool that you're into Gnosticism, you're going to be very surprised and offended when I tell you, oh, you're a victim. What? Gnosticism isn't about victimization. Oh, it absolutely is. It is a religion of victims. The whole idea that the earth is bad and that heaven is good and that there's the true God and then there's the evil one of the earth, and we have to get out of this limited, dense, three-dimensional reality. That's what, when people are talking about 3D versus 5D, I live in the 5D. These are the people that are more into the 5D. You'll find they're more victims. They're more victimized. So you have to be willing to die to that. But the closer you get to the heart, you realize that the soul is trapped. It's trapped in this container of lightning. And so your experience that you can't connect is coming from, among other things, the fact that your soul, which is infinite, is trapped in this cell of the heart center. The feeling of when you fall in love, the feeling of feeling like you're connecting to somebody with your heart, the feeling of freedom, You know, when you've been in love and you're, you know, I mean, last night was, I mean, gosh, I wish I could replicate it. I thought I was in some kind of a holodeck. It's end of the summer here in Queensland, and so it's, you know, 85 degrees at night, and the full moon was out, and I'm walking on the beach in the full moon, and I'm like, is this real? Am I even, you know? And I was by myself, but I was having that feeling, you know, you have when you're walking around with, you know, the love of your life, and you're in some tropical paradise. It's just, my heart was just so open because I was just, you know, palm trees and sweat. Yeah, it's just amazing. The freedom that I was feeling. That's, you know, when the soul is feeling connected, that's that feeling that you get when you fall in love. It's because you feel, most of the time you find out it's wrong. You know, another 9 months or a couple of years later, you're getting divorced. But, you know, at the time when you're having that feeling of being in love, it's because you're having this experience of your heart opening up and your soul experiencing another soul, which gives you this feeling of freedom. And that's why, one of the reasons why people seek out love relationships, because they're seeking an escape from the soul being isolated and trapped inside this physical body. Again, that's what Gnosticism is all about. Gnosticism is just a bunch of really lonely, powerless people who want to spiritualize their victimization. Again, I know it pisses a lot of people off. I'm just telling you what I've experienced. I've experienced it because I believed a lot of those things too, but I am willing to die to everything that keeps me from happiness, that keeps me from freedom. So, you know, I sit here cavalierly talking about this and dropping that and forgetting this, and you may get the experience that I'm just being cavalier and I don't understand. I think that's part of the reason why people get so angry with me, because they think I'm minimizing their pain when I just cavalierly tell them to drop, you know, all of your victim mentality and that belief that, you know, your belief in Gnosticism is actually, you know, you just love being trapped. It feels like I'm minimizing all of your pain, so they get angry. But it also, I'm doing it, you know, directly to challenge your attachments to those beliefs. Your attachment. Again, when I come to you and I say you are responsible for everything in your reality and your victimization is completely your doing, the good news is that if you created it, you can also create a way out. Why is it that people don't go, yeah, I do feel trapped, tell me the way out? Why do some people get so angry with me and want to argue with me? You know, and I go, well, so you'd prefer to be miserable? Is that it? You'd prefer to be trapped? It's because there's this payoff, and you have to be willing to die to the payoff, to the illusion that your beliefs about reality are somehow protecting you. They're not. All right? So, let's see, what are we talking about? So the trap of the heart chakra. So let's just hang on to that. Your attachments to your reality, your attachments to your wounds. The wounds that you experience are going to be in the heart center. That's where the center of your wounds are. And your wounds are when people disappoint you, hurt you, betray you. When life disappoints you, hurts you, betrays you. When God disappoints you, hurts you, betrays you. I'm not minimizing it. Those are wounds. Those are wounds that are directed at your soul. Now, one of the reasons why your soul is so heavily guarded from this reality is for that reason. Is because physical three-dimensional reality is very harsh because we have this duality. And again, the heart is where duality merges into unity. So in order to get to that place of unity, when you do that, these two things that are keeping you trapped come together and turn into a vortex that takes you to infinity. But this three-dimensional reality is filled with duality, and so it's very harsh. The soul lives in eternal bliss. So you have this soul that is multidimensional, that is full of bliss, and it's getting bombarded by all of this duality. People love you or they hate you. They have expectations on you. They betray you. They hurt you. It's very hard on the soul. The soul is not, when you're up there, in between lives and you're in infinity, your soul lives in this beautiful plane of love, acceptance, and unity. And every soul you come across, you see each other and relate to each other on the basis of this infinite bliss. You have no judgment. There's this connection and love that you have with every single conscious being in the universe. And then that experience has to come down into this three-dimensional duality. And so the soul has to deal with all these attacks all the time. It experiences this as violence. It feels it's a very violent place for the soul. And so what ends up happening is that every time duality, when you experience this three-dimensional world of duality, you're going to experience rejection, pain, betrayal, disappointment, just simply not getting what you want. Just just the feeling of that. Whether you're projecting it or whether it really happens to you, it doesn't matter. Your experience is the same. And so the container that the soul is trapped in, it also is the protection of the soul. So at the same time, again, this is a place of duality. The very thing that's keeping you trapped is also the very thing that's protecting you. If you were to get what you wanted, which was to have all limitation, so that there would be no barrier between you and reality, it could be really difficult. It could be really challenging because your infinite soul would be bombarded with all of this violence. And so this heart center, this lightning energy that the soul, imagine the soul as this little point of light, infinite point of light. And it's being held in this state of, imagine lightning bouncing around in this little light. I wish I had a graphic or something to show you, but imagine this ball of lightning, and inside of it is this ball of light that's being held safely within this lightning. The lightning becomes the protector, and so it creates this wall of protection around you, and every time that you experience duality, which you experience as violence, the lightning stops it, grabs onto it, and holds onto it. And ideally, you're supposed to work through that, but that's very hard to do. Because every time you work through, I want you to listen to me very carefully what I'm about to tell you. Every time that you process and work through, every time you've been disappointed, hurt, abandoned, attacked, every time that you work through that, you have to die to the expectation that you had associated with that person, place, or thing. So a simple one is the person you fell in love with, who's the love of your life. They betrayed you. They cheated on you with your best friend. That pain of that betrayal is going to get lodged in your heart center. It's going to get lodged there. And all of the energy of the lightning that protects the soul is going to go to hold that wound in place. It doesn't get rid of the wound. It just holds it there. You're supposed to then work through that. The way you work through that is by dying to the expectation that you had. The forgiveness. When you truly forgive somebody, this is important, listen to this. When you truly forgive somebody, it means that you are letting go of your expectation on them. They are no longer required to make you feel loved. And at the same time, you then turn around and love them unconditionally. Even though this person does not love me and does not want to give me what I want, and all of my expectations and dreams of how they were going to be with me and my life was going to be wonderful, I accept that that won't happen. And I wish on them to find what I wanted from them. And I release them from those expectations. That is the most painful process in the universe. Let me say that again. Forgiving people and things for not meeting your expectations is the most painful process in the universe. That's why people don't work through their problems. It's because it's too painful. So they keep those wounds there. And you keep the wounds alive by being a victim, because being a victim is having a temper tantrum. If you are somebody who says that the Matrix has trapped me, the elites are doing this, Donald Trump or Joseph Biden is doing this to me, there are false beings of light. I mean, you just hear the selfish, narcissistic temper tantrum. False beings of light are keeping me trapped in this matrix so they can suck the life out of me. You cannot have that belief without being full of homicidal rage. Rage protects you. So that lightning in the heart, which is there to protect the soul, then turns into rage. And you fight with that pain. All of your anger and your rage goes to fight with that pain. Now, all of that energy that goes to protect your heart is then sapping in order to keep that fight going on. Because remember, the heart center is there to hold on to the wound long enough so that you can then release it. You have to address it. You have to mourn and cry and be disappointed. You didn't get what you wanted. It sounds like I'm minimizing it, but that's really the cause of cancer, is that you just didn't get what you wanted out of life. And it's okay to be really sad. It's okay to be really hurt. You didn't get what you wanted. Crying, releasing, and then forgiving. When you forgive, it means you're taking full responsibility that you had an expectation. Having an expectation means that you selfishly want something that is not something that you deserve. It's a gift. When you want somebody to love you, you don't deserve to have them love you. They choose to love you, and that choice of choosing to love you is a gift. You didn't deserve that. It's a gift. But when they take that gift away, when life takes that gift away, you didn't get whatever the heck it was you wanted, you take responsibility by saying, I am operating from an internal locus of control. I have control over my reality. I have control over my destiny. I will be okay. The universe will provide for me and will love me. I'm really, really devastated that I didn't get what I wanted. Somebody died. Somebody cheated on you. You didn't become, famous singer. Whatever it is, you're taking responsibility. You work through that, and then that wound in the heart center then dissolves, and then all of that lightning energy goes back to protect the soul. But if every time something that happens to you that you don't get what you want, or you're horrifically hurt, that's a wound. And then your heart center, it creates this barrier, and then you stop letting anything in, and now you're trapped. So the very thing that is seeking to give you connection to infinity now becomes your own self-made prison. All right, let's keep going. I could talk about this for hours, but let's keep going. So, number 3, the key to escape the matrix via the left-hand path, heart chakra, vortex. The 3 is the fearlessness of self-awareness. Self-awareness requires that you must die. This is why shamans die. Shamans go through resurrection experiences where they die, they have a vision, they get sick, they get struck by lightning. They have visions where the gods chop them up into pieces, put them into a vat, and then bring them out whole again. And then when they wake up from that experience, they're different. They're no longer part of this world. They now have the ability to channel the forces of the universe and communicate to the gods. They can communicate to trees and rocks. And you want to know why? Because they no longer have a prison in their heart. And shamans are always seen as people who sort of are in and out of this world. You can't really pin them down. You can't really have deep relationships with them because they're really not part of the things that people are really into in this life, having a home and having kids. And shamans just aren't into that. It's like, I don't care about that. I appreciate it. I love it. But, you can't ever hold on to them because next thing you know, they're off in the mountains for a week by themselves meditating. And you know that you're going to have to take a back seat to their connection to the universe, that they have some connection to some kind of infinity that you're never going to see or experience. And so shamans, the stereotype of the shaman is that he or she lives on the edge of the village out in the forest by themselves. You can come to them and they'll heal you and help you, but at the same time they have this crazy wisdom that you have to be careful. They're dangerous because you never know what they're going to do. And so you go to them you only go to them when you need something, and they'll come and help you, but you know that they might just completely screw up your whole reality just by being around them. That's because they no longer are bound by the attachments, the expectations. And that has its own price. You don't get to have the benefit of feeling connected to society. You don't get to have that. Not like everybody else. You feel fulfilled when you're with nature, when you're with the universe. So a lot of people listening to me are nodding their head saying, yeah, that's me, except for the fact that you're in pain. Because the true shaman lives in joy, lives in bliss. Like my experience last night. The other thing is you can't ever hold on to it. Enlightenment isn't some static thing. It's a continuous process. So I'm not trying to say anything other than I'm human. But, that was my experience last night. It was like, this is it. What I'm experiencing, the moon and the clouds and the water and I realized I could not have imagined, I couldn't have created anything more fulfilling and beautiful for myself. And I said, this is it. This is it. This is what it's all about. How can I keep this going? So, the fearlessness of self-awareness. So you've got to be willing to take a look at your narcissism, your expectations. You're going to have to be fearless to let go. Your ego is going to have to be destroyed. And that's what happens whenever I run into somebody and I say to them, you've created your reality. No matter how horrible it is, you created it. The good news is if you created it, it means you can uncreate it. You can create your escape. If you created your prison, you can create your escape. Now, the reason why they get angry with me is because they don't have the fearlessness to let go of their protection. Their victim mentality is a protection that they wear, and they think it serves them. They think it protects them. And so even though they say they want to be free, they really don't, because they know in order to be free, they're going to have to die to their attachment to being a victim. They're going to have to take a look at and go in the process of seeing How am I feeling empowered by victimizing myself? You're going to have to take a look at your expectations. You know, you were abused by your parents. That's horrible. But what you're going to have to do, among many other things, is really look at your attachment to wanting to be loved by somebody that showed you, I'm not going to love you. I'm just not going to do it. And the pain and the terror of letting go of that avenue of protection. Because if you can, if you can convince your narcissistic husband, which is a representation of your narcissistic father, if you can get them to love you finally, then you'll feel safe. Then you'll feel okay. And no, you won't. You're going to have to let go of your selfish need to have people see you, love you, and accept you. You're going to have to feel all that pain instead of protect yourself behind a wall of victimization. So you have to live in the fearlessness of the heart center. The fearlessness of self-awareness. The reason why you chased after that abusive, emotionally unavailable man was because what you really wanted was you really wanted to convince your dad to love you. And he never will. Maybe he's dead. Your dad's never, I'm not speaking for everybody's dad, obviously, but I'm making an example, a very typical example. So once you realize that daddy's never going to love you and that you wanted something from him, instead of saying, I deserve to get this from him, which you did, but you also wanted something. Take ownership and take responsibility that you wanted something from life. And that aspect of life did not give it to you. You have to own up to your narcissism. Because then what happens is as you become an adult, you go out in the world and you start demanding that all men love you this way and see you, they don't objectify you, and they don't see you like this, and they don't do that, and they have to do this, and they have to mow the lawn, and they have to give me this, and I'm the one that's raising the kids, and why aren't you? Again, this is just an example. Because way back when, you're not owning up to the fact that you selfishly wanted something from your dad, he didn't give it to you, and instead of working through that, loving yourself through that, and releasing him, letting him be an imperfect human being, instead of doing that, you go out in the world expecting a man to fix you. Same for women. Men do the same thing with women. And whatever your sexual orientation is, etc., etc. You get it. It's just an example. When you own up that I've been wanting people to meet this need and I've been demanding it from them and they haven't been giving it to me and therefore I'm miserable and you did it to me, you have to live in the fearlessness of self-awareness of what I wanted. And then you have to live in the duality of first off acknowledging that your desires are valid. You're not stupid for wanting any of those things. You're not evil or selfish. The only time you become selfish is then when you make a demand upon the world to give you that thing instead of letting it be a gift. What I got last night was a gift. If I was in my human narcissism, I would have been completely clueless. I would have been walking down the beach thinking about, I need another surfboard, and why aren't the waves better, and why can't I be 35 again, and all that. Because that's what we do. Instead of going, wow, look at where I am. Look at this. You have to be in the fearlessness of self-awareness to be able to experience that. And then you have to be warriors of vulnerability. So you're going to have to flip everything on its head. Instead of trying to protect yourself, instead of storming the Capitol because the election didn't go your way, you're going to have to be a warrior of vulnerability. In other words, it takes a warrior to continue this process of examining your narcissism, what you want from the world, and when the world doesn't give you what you want, to understand that it is a gift. The universe loves you when you allow it to be a gift. When you demand it, first off, when you demand it, the universe can't give it to you. You block off the universe giving anything to you when you demand it. And again, go and practice the previous step and just acknowledge that you walk around demanding that the universe give you what you want. You walk around demanding that people meet your emotional needs. You walk around demanding that somebody pay you what you want in order to live your life. Instead of, for example, let's take somebody who happens to be a talented musician. In my example, I'm saying that there's a talented musician who, because of the vulnerability of their heart, they share from their vulnerability. Other people are connected and they throw money at them and they give them fame and money. Well, that's because they're operating from their vulnerability. It costs them a lot to dig deep and to release that vulnerability. And this is one of the things that artists do. Artists will, many artists are super, super sensitive. And when they sing a song, you feel like they're singing to you about your life. And so it's like they really they're vicariously going through the pain of vulnerability for the public. And that's why the public pays the money to go and sing their songs or make their recordings or whatever, because the public is saying, hey, listen, I don't have the strength or the fearlessness to go that deep within myself. I'm too protected. You do it for me. Here's $1 billion. Go write the perfect song that makes me cry and feel like you're talking about my existence, and then I'll go back onto my superficial reality. That's the contract. And the artist says, I will go deep and I will experience it on the deepest level, and then I will reveal it to the world. I will take on and I will, live that life of vulnerability for you. That's why we watch movies. That's why we go to plays. It's because we're watching them experience our emotional vulnerability so that we don't have to. So we pay them money. So that's an example. You have to be willing to go through that process. Be a warrior of vulnerability. Owning your emotions. That's why on my channel, I only want 2 things from you. I want an honest question, hopefully based on what I'm talking about. And number 2, either that or an honest feeling. I want to train you to get connected, to go deep and analyze and be honest about your feelings. Because again, it's all about the heart center. And then 5, you have to release the lightning element to destroy the matrix. So this is where the left-hand path comes in. This is something I've been practicing this path for 30 years, and I didn't understand why it was so different from everything else out there. The Qigong practice that I learned compared to your normal traditional Qigong, I can appreciate traditional Qigong. I use it, I enjoy it, but the power that I get from the practice that I learned is far more powerful than that. And every master of traditional Qigong practices that I've talked to, when I start talking about my experiences, they look at me weird. When I show them some of the practices, they get scared and they say, that's evil, you have to be careful of that. I'm like, I don't understand. What am I doing that's so different? I can feel the difference in the power. Why is yours? Well, that's because I found out that they have a different pathway. They use different meridians in the body. They're not tapping directly into the lightning power of the heart. They're tapping into the chi of the lower self. And it's a longer process to get to the same place. The path of the lightning path is a left-hand path, meaning it's quick. You get to the power immediately. You don't have to spend your life trying to get to the power. But in order to get the benefits of the power, you have to die. You have to be immediately vulnerable. You have to be pulverized. You have to be willing to look at your narcissism, your selfishness, your pain, your disappointment. You're gonna, you'll gain a bunch of power, and then you'll be overwhelmed with the feelings of all this. What's happening is that you're tapping into that lightning power that's protecting the soul, and that all of those wounds are being held together by that lightning. But in order to get that lightning into your body and coming out of your hands, and to give you the experience and the awareness, all the lightning that goes to keep those wounds in your in the shield around your heart, that goes away, which means all of a sudden you have to have all of those feelings. You must work through all of the wounds. That's the price. You want the power, you have to live from pure vulnerability, and not everybody can do it. Not everybody can handle it. So these are the 5 keys to tapping into the matrix. We are, if you go to thunderwizard.com and you click on Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, now that I know exactly what's going on, I know exactly what the meridians are, because it's a completely different meridian system than your traditional Qigong or yoga. It's a whole different meridian system. And so all you have to do to tap into that lightning is just you hit a certain posture, you do a certain breath, you move the body a certain way, it flips on a switch that goes directly to that lightning power in the heart and releases it into the body. I was hanging out with somebody a couple days ago. It was a woman, considerably younger than I am, and she was commenting on my skin. Like, your skin is so soft. Your hands are like a baby's hand. How did you get? And I said, because the practice that I do. When you tap into that lightning power, you get the pure power of the soul, which when it goes into all of the organs and all to the meridians and the nerves and the skin, you end up having this very youthful, healthy, everything functions. It heals you of a lot of physical issues. I'm not making any guarantees for anybody, but there's a reason why, years ago, I because of, I won't get into it, but I had a blood test taken, and when they looked at the numbers of, looking at me and looking at the, what was in the results of my test, and they're like, you've got the blood work of like a 25-year-old athlete. You're how old? You're 50. What? I know now why that is. It's because that lightning power of the heart, when it's released into the body, everything vibrates on its on its ideal level. The downside is whatever toxins are in there are going to come out faster. Whatever emotional pain, whatever psychological issues are there, they're going to come out faster. You're going to have to deal with that. That's the dark side of it. So we're doing this in the 90-day challenge. Go to thunderwizard.com, click on Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong if you want to be a part of that. Okay, and we're getting close to level 3. We've got level 1, which, by the way, you need Celestial Qigong for that as well. So you can go to spirittao.com and get Celestial Qigong. And then that combined with this Warrior 90-Day Challenge, what it is, it's a practice. And it's not me talking. It's just me doing a half-hour practice. And there's 3 of them. There's a morning and a midday, and then there's an evening practice. And you just literally click play, and you follow along with me. You don't have to know anything. Just do the things that I'm doing, the physical things that I'm doing, the breath, the chant, whatever it is I'm doing. You just follow along with me. And then you do the step 1 for at least 90 days. And then we've got step 2. So I add in some simple, if you've done it, you know, it's very simple, the things I add in. But the power that's associated with just some of those tiny tweaks, you know what I'm talking about. All of a sudden, wow, you're experiencing emotions you haven't had in years. And, you know, people are saying, what do I do? I feel like I'm having all these emotions. And it's confusing because on the one hand, you have all this really great feeling in your body. And on the other hand, you got a lot of potentially challenging feelings coming up. And I teach you how to use the 5 elements to cleanse you of all of the feelings that you're holding on to. That's what disease is. Disease is unresolved issues somewhere that you hold trapped in your body, and it'll turn into a disease. You hold on to it for 10. That's why old people, that's why people my age, I'm 57. That's why when people get to be my age, they start having these age-related issues. Truth is that the body's perfectly capable. I can promise you. You're 50, 60, 70 years old. I can promise you that your body is fully capable of being as healthy as anybody else. Maybe you don't run as fast as you did when you were 30, but you don't have the aches and the pains. Your body doesn't do that. Age doesn't do that. What does that is that time, which is associated with age, the time of holding on to unresolved things, all the energy that goes into protecting that wound will turn into a disease. And then you say, oh, age-related illness. But what the way that you're built is, you're supposed to be perfectly healthy until one day you keel over and die. That's it. That's how it's designed. Yeah, you're a little older, you're a little slower, but you're perfectly healthy. Your mind is perfectly healthy. Your body is perfectly healthy. And then you reach your expiration date and you go to sleep and you don't wake up. You're walking around, you have a heart attack, you die. You're 110 years old. That's what you're supposed to be. But that won't happen if the energy isn't flowing freely. And the energy won't be flowing freely if you're protecting yourself from these wounds, from living in this harsh dual existence. That's why that's why meditation, yoga, all of these things are associated with longevity, because the spiritual life must be lived in order to process the harshness of this matrix. And then when you find the key, when you escape the matrix, guess what? You don't want to leave. Like me, last night I was like, oh my God, this is such an amazing holodeck I'm walking on. This is just, look at that. It's just so amazing. You get to see the amazing beauty of this 3-dimensional hologram. It is a matrix, it is an illusion, but it is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful illusion. And it's a virtual 3-dimensional fun reality for the soul when you don't have any wounds that you have to protect. When you're no longer protecting yourself from the wounds, when you've gone through the process and you've felt the pain and you've forgiven, taken full responsibility and released it, and then you get to see the amazingness of where you live, and then you don't want to leave. Because then you learn how to manipulate the matrix to give you everything you've ever wanted. And that is a real adventure. And then it becomes fun. All right? So, bottom line is, if you want that, go here. These links are also here. Use them. Don't. Before I take a question, just let me make it clear. This channel is not for you to just come on and listen. This isn't an intellectual exercise. The majority of the comments, I haven't even looked at them, but I'm willing to bet the majority of the comments are somebody who wants to get involved in some discussion where we're spouting our intellectual, and to you that means something, and it doesn't mean anything to me. All of this talking is for one reason. That's to get you to do the work. You live in an energetic universe. In order to get the most out of this matrix, you must do the energy work to connect to the energy. You must transform yourself. change your vibration. And that's not coming just from talking and thinking, which is what you want to do. If all you want to do is come and talk and then you go to another video and you don't do anything. Do the work. Do the meditations. Even if you don't want to subscribe to any of this stuff, go onto my channel and do how many hundreds and hundreds of free Qigong. Look at my playlist, the Qigong, the meditations, the mantras, the rituals. Do something. Do the work. Don't just talk. That's what I want you to get out of this. Do, if anything else, do this whole breath. You can go on anywhere. Type this into YouTube. Just type in HUUL breath into YouTube and just do that. Better that you do that for an hour a day for the rest of your life than sit around talking to people about spirituality, which gets you nowhere. Do the work, take the risk, transform yourself, and then you can experience what I'm talking about. All right, let's get to some questions now. All right, Vincent.thunderwizard.com. You can go to his channel, his website, which is what I just told you, Vincent.thunderwizard.com. And he is a certified astrologer from that I've certified. You can go to his website. By the way, anybody else, if you've got a certification from me, I'll plug you as well. The reason why I plug him every time is because every time he comes up, he types in and says hello. And that's because I told him whenever I'm doing a live stream, just say hello, and I'll tell people about your website. So if you want to get certified by me, I'll give you your own website. To get that, you can click on courses.thunderwizard.com, or you can go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com, and I will certify you in multiple things, give you a website, and I'll plug you every time you come on, if you want that. All right, let's see. Looking for the questions. Rune, question. What does it mean to die to yourself? In order to make sacrifices to get what you really want, be happy? Does your personality change? So you asked that question before I had finished talking, right? So that's why I say hold off until I'm done talking. Because I think I just spent, an hour answering that question. Let's see what else. All right, so here's a victim. I can't tell if you're joking. If you're joking, it's a funny joke. If you're not joking, then I would, with respect, say that you are a victim. You said, I need a new conspiracy. The one I was denouncing, they became reality. Yeah, I never said that conspiracies don't exist. They just don't affect me. Now, the majority of them that you think are conspiracies actually don't exist. But the other thing is that the conspiracies that don't exist, if you keep promoting conspiracies that don't exist, you actually end up creating the very conspiracy you said didn't exist. I'm watching that happen in front of my eyes. So anyway, I can't tell if you're joking or serious, but either way. God Emperor, question. How do I know the Ascended Masters want to teach me or not? You don't. So God Emperor, you have to learn how to trust. Trust is not because somebody gave you a guarantee. Oh, I trust the universe because I have this guarantee. It was written and signed by, Lord Zarkon the Magnificent. No, trust means you don't know the outcome. That's why love is risky, because you choose to trust somebody that you don't know all that well. You don't know if they're going to love you back, and they might hurt you. They're probably going to disappoint you in all kinds of ways. You're going to get hurt at some point because they're not giving you what you want. So you say, how do I know? You don't know. You have to trust. You have to act on the assumption. God Emperor, everything I teach, first thing I teach is that you must start from the assumption that the universe loves you and wants to give you your deepest soul desires. You then act on that assumption, and then the universe rewards you. So any of you watching, go watch any of my videos or take any of my courses on the matrix, which again, the lockdown package has the matrix videos and courses in it. And in that, I teach you that the way the matrix works, the matrix is like a vending machine. You put a quarter in or whatever it is, 50 quarters nowadays into a vending machine, and then you get, your candy bar or whatever the hell it is. So the universe is a vending machine. But what you do is you take action. That's your quarter. Your quarter is your action. You take action from the assumption that you have the guarantee that you're going to get what your soul wants. So you first have to decide, you have to figure out, not decide, you have to figure out what it is your authentic soul wants as opposed to your false, false limited self that, has been imposed upon you. You have to figure out what your soul wants as opposed to what your programming tells you. Then when you do what your soul wants, you're not going to have the resources. Your soul's going to want something, just totally unthinkable, like living in Queensland with no COVID in a giant house for the same price that I would pay for a small apartment, and perfect, beautiful, empty forest and empty beaches and all that. That's just unattainable. How could somebody get that? Well, I took the actions, even though I didn't have the money or the resources or anything. I just went and did it. So you have to take action. Your action is the quarter. And when you take the action, the universe then has to respond. It has to give you what you're asking for, if it is your soul desire. So you're wanting me to tell you, you wanting me to make it safe for you, and it's not safe. You have to take a risk. You have to be willing to make a mistake. You have to be willing to die. You have to be willing to not get what you want. And you don't know. You just step out and you do it. So you don't know. But the thing is, the way the universe works is if you don't take action, the universe doesn't respond, which then people go, see, God doesn't exist. You see, there are beings of light and they just want to mess with you. No, but the universe doesn't operate from love. It's a prison. Well, it's only a prison because you're just sitting on your ass not doing anything. And the actions you are taking have nothing to do with, fearlessness and living from the heart. When you live from the heart fearlessly and you take risks and you're willing to die for what you want, then that's the lever. Then the universe goes, okay, give them $10,000, give them a place to live, give them, whatever it is that you want. So the short answer is you don't know that they want to teach you, but you have to take action as though they do. What else? I don't know what that means. If you're not saying no, it's because you don't know. What the hell does that mean? Daniel Cardenas. I mean, again, this is why people just shouldn't drop comments, because when you say something stupid, I'm gonna point at it. I mean, maybe it's not stupid. Maybe it's really deep and I don't get it. But it sounds like a victim mentality thing. So, Daniel Cardenas, back it up. Don't just be cute. What does that mean? If you're not saying no, it's because you don't know. I mean, I don't say no, I say yes. So what am I missing about what you just said? What else? Jedi Black Knight question. After doing the exercises of the 90-day challenge at thunderwizard.com, he's talking about. After doing the exercises and before closing down, would it be a good idea to call on the Ishta Devata to get more clarity? Don't overthink it, Jedi Black Knight. If you have a ritual that I've given you and you're doing a mantra ritual to your Ishta Devata, then do that. If you're doing a mantra ritual to a deity that's not necessarily your Ishta Devata, then focus on that. More is not better. So, the way that the Ishta Devata works, in case if you're listening, one of the things that you'll get from vincent.thunderwizard.com, if you go to his website and get a reading from him, is you will learn what the 3 planets are that want to deal with your 3 minds. So the first one is called the Ishta Devata. You can go look this up if you want. Ishta Devata, and that is your conscious mind. So your conscious mind is your waking experience. So the way to get the benefit of your Ishta Devata, for instance, mine is Venus. So for me, working with Venus deities, which means talking to them consciously, when I walk around during the day and I think about it, I think about, and I talk to the deity as though, yeah, I need a parking space and this person said that. And, you talk to them like they're your best friend. For me, Venus is pleasure. So as you can tell, I focus on my personal pleasure. Just by thinking about that, what is it that I want? What's going to make me happy? I'm connecting to my Ishta Devata. Then you have the planet that is called the Dharma Devata. And that means the planet of your destiny. So that is the planet that wants to help your unconscious mind. So the Ishta is your conscious, the Dharma is the unconscious. Unconscious means you're not aware of it. So by worshiping the Dharma Devata, you then become aware of all of the positive and the negative things that are being held in your unconscious, all the ways that you're sabotaging yourself, all of your fear-based victim mentality, which is, if I heard Daniel Cardenas right, his unconscious is full of fear because he says no. And he says the more that you figure things out, the more you say no. Again, I don't know what that means. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but it sounds like a recipe for unconscious fear. So if I'm hearing him right, he lives in unconscious fear. So by him, if he were to worship his Dharma Devata, again, assuming I'm right about him, which I might not be, then he would become aware of all of the ways that he has protected himself, living less than fearlessly by finding all of the things he needs to say no to in the world. He doesn't know that now, but if he works with his Dharma Devata, he'll know that. Again, if you know what that is. For me, my Dharma Devata is the moon. So the moon is emotions. So for me, if I live the path of emotions, if I dig deep into my emotions, I become aware of what my true path in life is. And then I find my destiny. You're going to have a different planet. And then you have the Palana Devata. The Palana Devata has to do with your subconscious, not your unconscious, but your subconscious mind. So the Palana Devata wants to give you money and clothes and stuff. And so this is the planet that helps you focus your intentions. For me, that's Mars. Mars does a lot of other things for me. But so when I worship Mars, it gives me the power to intend my physical reality. So this is what he's asking about. So he's asking, after doing the exercises, should he call on the Ishta Devata to get more clarity into the soul desire? Which again, you're thinking too hard. That's not how the Ishta Devata works. The Ishta Devata is to help you in your conscious walk through life. If you're having difficulty in terms of the clarity into your soul desire, you're better off working with your Dharma Devata. So if you're doing the exercises and I give you a mantra, do the mantra to your Dharma Devata. You don't have to add another deity and add this. Again, Jedi Black Knight, one of the things you do is you overthink things. You try too hard, you want to add this, you're always seeming to better deal it. I give you an exact practice. I mean, how many times have we done this? I give you an exact practice, and then you'll want to message me, should I add this, and should I do that, and can I take... That's part of your issue. Every time that you want to add something and fix it and improve on the one thing I gave you to do, that's how you distract yourself. It's your way of actually sabotaging what you want, because you think if you can figure it out, you'll have more power. But again, that's all part of that limited thinking. We all express it in different ways. That's how you do it. So, and again, it shows a little bit of a misunderstanding of how the Ishta Devata works. You want to figure out your soul desire? Work with the Dharma Devata. All right, what else? Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Question: how does one make their unconscious victim mentality programming congruent with their conscious desire to have an internal locus of control? That's a really deep, complicated question. I'm not smart enough to figure it out. Your victim mentality programming, I mean, why are you trying to make it congruent with your conscious desire? Look, again, sorry, overthinking. Your victim mentality programming is a defense mechanism. It's your victim mentality programming thinks it's protecting you. You, at some point in your childhood, based on either past life karmic issues and or personal issues and or parental issues, whatever, something like that, in order to survive, you came up with, if you have a victim mentality, you came up with a specific victim mentality programming in order to protect you. Multiple personality disorder, whatever that is. That's a perfect example. That's somebody who went through tremendous abuse, and in order to survive the abuse, which was intolerable, they created multiple personalities to defend themselves in a time of crisis. Then when they're out of that and they're an adult and they're living on their own, then they have to go to a psychiatrist and learn how to integrate, because they no longer need to protect themselves anymore. So that protection mechanism served at one point, it's not serving you now. So Vincent, if you have a victim mentality, it means that you adopted one because you thought, whether it was true or not, I don't know, but you thought you needed to protect yourself from something that was intolerable. And so now the thing to do is to become conscious of it. Let's see, this has nothing to do with you. Let's say somebody has an issue about women. You can't trust women because they're always going to, take from you, and they're going to, control your life. And, at some point the guy had an overprotective mother, or he got hurt by a girlfriend. So he created this victim mentality. Women do this. You have to do, and then he takes it into life. And for some reason he keeps creating this scenario where women take advantage of him. And that's because he's got this victim mentality that served him, but is no longer serving him. So you have to become aware. This is what that step is about, becoming aware of, your narcissistic need to protect yourself. How did that create, how is your victim mentality serving you? You have to ask yourself. And what you'll find out, if you go deep, is you'll find out that on an unconscious level, the reasoning behind your victim mentality is completely irrational. And you'll go, wow, that doesn't make sense at all. And then you'll let go of it. So you don't, your question, how do you make it congruent? You don't. You just drop it. The conscious desire to have an internal locus of control is real simple. You just act on it. You just take responsibility. Internal locus of control says, I created everything. I don't know how. I created this limitation, I created this disease, I created this, whatever it is that you created that you don't like about your life. You say, I created it, I don't know how I did it, but if I created it, I can find a way out, and I'll figure that out. You just start from trusting. Again, do you hear all of the thinking? The main thing I'm seeing here is people are doing a lot of thinking. This is why I say to people, stop overthinking it. Because overthinking is a defense mechanism. Because you can't have an emotion, right? You can't be experiencing an emotion while you're trying to think your way out of a problem. Thinking your way out of a problem is a way of stuffing the feelings. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you have to think things through. But in terms of this, how do I live the life of my dreams, and help me to figure that out? If I can figure it out, no, the figuring it out is the problem. Your intellect. Remember, we live in this dual, this three-dimensional world that's a world of duality. So the intellect is all about duality. And people in the Western world, they think spirituality is knowledge. Like somebody mentioned, once you know, then you learn how to say no. So he thinks that his knowledge is going to help him. And knowledge is the intellect. The heart is feeling. So when the heart is in pain, the heart cries. When the heart is afraid, when the heart is happy, When the heart has a feeling, the heart experiences the feeling. You don't have to think about it. It doesn't take any thinking to acknowledge that you're sad, lonely, angry, happy, joyous, confused. You don't have to think that through. You just experience it. And living in that state of being free of the matrix means that you have access to all of your emotions, positive and negative. If you're stuck in your head, it's because I don't want to have unpleasant feelings. I only want to have pleasant feelings. So I'm going to think it through. So do you hear that? I'm hearing everybody, almost everybody seems to be wanting to figure something out. And I'm trying to tell you just to have the feelings. Just be. Enlightenment is this. If you haven't heard me say it, this is enlightenment. Enlightenment is not achieving a state of bliss where you don't have any negative experiences or feelings. That's called denial. That's why people who talk about love and light are all the same people who are, they're doing drugs and they think drugs is spiritual. It's not. It's a way of escaping your feelings. The way to be enlightened is to have all of your feelings, positive and negative, without filtering them, and then having the consciousness to take constructive action. So one of the problems with people when they have all of their thoughts and feelings is that then you'll have impulses. Impulse to punch somebody in the face, impulse to do something, impulse to smoke weed or get drunk or, watch porn or go gamble or whatever it is. So that's a response to having feelings. So the reason why a lot of people try and stuff their feelings. So let's see, Arete to Marcel, I need you to stop all the comments. If you got a question, ask a question, but please, all the comments, all they do is they get in the way. I know that's how most channels work, is that this is, dumping your comment. But that's not what we do here. What I want to do is I just want to see your questions, okay? So we don't need that. I don't need you to help me out. I don't need a cheerleader, okay? Because it gets in the way. I have to scroll through all of it to get to people's questions. All right? Anyway, that was a while ago, but I'm just seeing it's right in front of me here. All right. So, and write the word question, please. Just don't type in a Q. So, do you get where I'm going? In order to be enlightened, you have to have all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, positive and negative, and then be able to be conscious enough to only take actions that are constructive. That's enlightenment. It doesn't get any better or different than that. Anybody who tells you that enlightenment is this state of bliss that you achieve, they either don't know what they're talking about or they're trying to sell you something. This is what cult leaders do. They tell you, rightly, they'll sometimes very expertly tell you the problem of reality, and then they'll say, and I am the way. Follow me and you'll never have any problems. Oh, if you have problems, well, you're not following the way. You're not trusting me. I'm not doing that. I'm telling you here, you go do the method is what it's all about. It's not about me. I'm really looking forward to passing this off so that I can, someday stop teaching and just, live on the beach. And I don't do this because I need people following me. My goal is to get you to do the work. You figure it out. Once I give you the stuff, you go do it. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. We need to have people, we need to talk to people, right? Okay, let's see, what else? So hopefully I answered your question, Vincent. Eddie 5241 question, do the gods have a chakra system? Let me just ask you this question. I can tell when somebody's new to the channel, so I assume you're new to the channel. How does that question help you? Whether if I say yes, the gods do have a chakra system, or the gods don't have a chakra system, how does that help you? That's just purely an intellectual question. What actions are you going to take based on the answer to that question that's going to make your life better? This is why I say people don't ask a question until you have listened to me for a while or watched my videos, because then you know what I teach, and then you can ask based on what I teach. But I've never mentioned anything about the gods having a chakra system. I personally don't care. It has no bearing on me following this path. If it does, I'm open to hearing about it, but it doesn't sound like it would matter to me one way or another. So I'm not going to answer your question because it doesn't mean anything for you. But it makes me want to ask you, why would you ask that? A lot of times what I'll do is I'll say, here's what you really want to ask me with that question. Because sometimes I can tell the reason why I have people tell me why they're asking questions, sharing their feelings, is because when I know what your feelings are, I know what the real issue is that you're trying to solve. And I just want to go straight to giving you the answer to solve your issue. So if you get frustrated because I'm not answering your questions the way you want, it's because I'm not interested in just intellectually talking about whatever. I want to solve your problem. I want to help you solve your own problem. And for that, I need to know why you're asking a question. Again, this is all heart-centered stuff. Why am I asking that question? That's, you should know that. All right, what else? All right, already I don't know what that is. I can't tell if that's a question or not. Zach Johnson. All right, I don't know what that is. That's not a question either. Can we exteriorize that energy? Okay, so arete to Marcel, listen to what I'm telling you. If you want to do the practice, it's right there. Yes, you can exteriorize that energy. So you have to do the practice. Jedi Black Knight, question. Which of the 5 elements is associated with guilt and its negative expression? So guilt is anger. Guilt is rage. Somebody asks you to their birthday party and you don't want to go and you feel guilty. Because somebody could ask you to their birthday party and you could say no and not feel guilty. But if somebody asks you to the birthday party, you go, oh, God, I really don't want to. Let me see. Just give me a second. This might be important. Hello? Hey, Beck. I'm in the middle of doing a live stream. Can I call you back in just a little bit? Okay, thanks. Bye. All right. So what were we talking about? So guilt. So somebody asks you to their birthday party and you go, oh my God, oh God, I really don't want to go. Oh God, I feel so guilty. That means you're full of rage because you feel responsible for their feelings, and it enrages you that you now are responsible for their feelings about whether or not you go or don't go to their birthday party. So guilt is anger. But again, I think you're overthinking it here, because you think if you can figure out which element, this and that, again, you're trying to overthink it. But in terms of guilt, if you're telling me you've got a lot of guilt, then the thing to do is, the 5 elements are going to bring up the awareness. So you don't have to figure out which element. Just do the 5 element practices as I've laid them out, because you go in a sequence. Trust me, just by doing all the 5 elements in sequence, you will hit whichever emotion needs to get dealt with. Okay? And if you do the practice, then you're going to have to look at the anger that you have. Why are you angry at somebody? Stay with the feeling. Don't try and figure it out. Anyway, I hope I answered the question. Jameson response. I don't know. Did you have a question, Jameson? I don't remember. If you had a question, I don't remember. You have a response. Oh, okay. So I answered your question. All right. So if I'm reading the response right, I basically answered your question about the heart center and the lightning. Okay. Good. I'm happy to know that I did that. God Emperor, question. I very rarely smoke weed, but today I smoke. If you're going to do my practice, God Emperor, you got to stop smoking weed. You got to stop. Weed traps you in your intellect. That's the reason why you smoke. You smoke to get control. You're trying to control your feelings and your impulses, and weed gives you the illusion that you have control over your impulses. And you don't. You're just going to have to feel uncomfortable feelings and impulses. And you're going to have to learn how to discipline yourself to respond constructively. So you say, I very rarely smoke weed, but today I smoked a THC pen. Will this throw off the 90-day challenge I'm currently doing? Well, I mean, I don't make it a rule to do it or not do it, but I'm telling you, yeah, it's gonna, you know, it's not a test. The 90-day thing isn't a quiz, and I'm not gonna grade you. That's just a guideline that I give. You know, that's the best way to do it. Do it at least 90 days per step. But yeah, I mean, my recommendation to you is to stop smoking weed altogether. It's not serving you. And it will not serve you doing this work. It will only make things worse. The good news is that by doing the work, you'll heal the negative effects of THC much more quickly. All right, let's see what else. God Emperor, honest feeling. So you smoked weed today. So I'm here to tell you that your honest feeling may not be as honest as you think. Let's see. When you said do the work, it filled me with joy and made me proud I'm doing the work. There you go. Okay, so, well, since it comes out that way, then I'll say it's an honest feeling. But I appreciate you sharing that, because those are the two things I want. I want honest questions and honest feelings. And you did that just right. You know, honest feeling is just that. Something I said filled you with a feeling. Some people say, my feeling is that people are stupid. And it's like, no, that's not a feeling. That's a judgment. But that's an honest feeling. You did that right. Good for you. Thanks for following that and for sharing that with us. So, Jameson, question. What would you say the question is that you are answering when you are talking about the heart anatomy and the purpose of facing all that disappointment and hurt instead of trying to cultivate what is not there, i.e. feelings of self-love? Okay, so that's again, guys, the more complicated the question, the more thinking is going on. The more thinking is going on, the more distraction you're engaged in order to relieve yourself of the uncomfortable feelings. So if I squint and I am having a hard time understanding the question, there's a lot of thinking going on. It means you can get more to the honest feeling. So what would you say the question is that you are answering when you are talking about the heart anatomy and the purpose of facing all of the disappointment and hurt instead of trying to cultivate what is not there, feelings of self-love? So right there, you're trying to cultivate feelings of self-love. So you're saying you don't have self-love, so you're trying to fake it. Well, you don't have to feel a feeling of self-love. You just have to take the actions associated with self-love. So you can think about it. If a little kid was to come to you and say, whatever it is, I feel guilty because I wanted to go to the park and my friend didn't want to go with me and I hate him and what did I do wrong? You know, then you would sit down with them and you'd say, that must be very sad. And you would just comfort them in their feeling. So you do that for yourself. You know, Jameson, just being with yourself in the feeling, just having it. You don't have to do anything about it. This is what, again, a good parent does. A good parent lets the kid just have their feeling. Oh, that's okay. I know. That's sad. I'm sorry you're having that. That must be really painful. They're not talking you out of the feeling. They're not telling you to have it or don't have it. They're just there with you while you have it. And at the same time, they're not upset. Just because you're upset doesn't make them upset. But they're just loving you in the feeling. So you learn how to do that to yourself. Just be there with yourself in the feeling, even though you know you think you don't have any self-love. Then act like somebody who had self-love. What would somebody who has self-love, what would they do? And then just do what they would do. The action is what's more important. Love is an action. not a feeling. The other person gets a feeling because you took a loving action. They have a feeling of love. You may or may not have a feeling of love when you take the action, but you take an action anyway, whether you feel the love or not. The other person experiences it as love. So do that to yourself. You're not feeling self-love, but I'm going to take a self-loving action, even though I don't feel it. You'll end up having the response at some point, as though it was love. I ask because I've been trying to ask and prompt this session's answer so I can better understand what this topic is categorized under for me. Place in my mind, okay, this is the area of curiosity I've been having. This is where I need to focus on reading it. Okay. Conclusion question, like what knowledge category is this? Psychic anatomy, soul desire work? It's too intellectual for me. I haven't even come up with a category. To me, I see it as just a state of being. So I'm just talking about, ways of trying to describe how to get to a state of being. I mean, you can categorize it however you want. I haven't categorized it. If I do categorize it, it's only because I'm trying to communicate to other people, not because I'm trying to communicate to myself. But that doesn't mean you can't do it that way. Everybody's different. So you can categorize it however you want. I'm not sure if I know how to answer your question. So Vincent.thunderwizard.com has been helped by the 90-day challenge. I'm happy to see that. God Emperor, honest feeling. I wrote a question before you finished because I felt peer pressure within myself when somebody else wrote a question. See, that's great that you are able to acknowledge that. That's really good. That's where you're living in the moment. You're not just acting off of an impulse. You're having consciousness about what you do and why you do it. And then you can decide, whether or not. So now you know that you jumped the gun and you didn't have to ask a question. You didn't really need to. You did it for an external reason, which really wasn't, what you wanted. And now that you know that, you'll be able to see that coming next time it happens. Or well, you'll have a better chance of seeing it next time it happens. Okay, Onyx Cat, question. Is your left hand fast different than the black order of the phosphorus? Because that looks scary. Sorry. So Onyx Cat, I think I've seen you on here before. Have you done any of my practices? My instinct is that you haven't. The other thing is, again, how many times, maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't, but I say it quite often, which is, don't ask me questions about other practices. If I don't talk about it, don't ask about it. Don't ask me about other teachers or other practices. It's a waste of time. You're the one that has to figure that out. I don't know what that black order is of phosphorus. I don't know what that is. You do the practice, you'll find out if it's like it. You're afraid, so what you want me to do is to soothe you and tell you not to be afraid. I can't have any control over how you experience the practice. It might frighten you, it might not. But I can tell you that it is a very empowering, safe practice, but it's also very powerful. And to gain power, you're going to have to face things like your own fear and other things like that. So I can't tell you that it's all going to be without this. And again, I don't know anything about the other practice, so I can't answer that. What I can tell you is that I can tell that you haven't done the work. And if you want to have what I have, you got to do what I do. So the other question is, do you think that I'm evil? Do you think that there's something wrong with me? Because if you do what I do, you're going to get what I've gotten. And so if you think I'm evil, then you'll have to decide that this practice is evil. If I'm not evil, then maybe there's something to this practice. Eddie 5241 question, how do I project my Aruda? Capricorn so have you gotten a reading from me? Have you gotten a reading from me or from Vincent.thunderwizard.com? I'm happy to take a look at your chart. So the simple thing is you have to embody your projection. You have to dress like it and act like it, even if it's completely opposite to how you see yourself. So you've got Capricorn in the eighth house aspected by Mars. So I don't want to do the work for you because you're not paying me for my time, and it's a long question. So you go figure out what Capricorn is, because people see you as a Capricorn ascendant. They think that's your sign. They think you're a Capricorn. And what is Capricorn? What is the eighth house? Capricorn is ruled over by Saturn. So you want to see where Saturn is in your chart and in your D9 chart. So you want to see what Saturn is doing in your chart. And Mars is aspecting Capricorn, so you want to figure out what that means. Again, I'm not going to do the work for you. When you put that all together and you figure out a Capricorn in the eighth house aspected by Mars when Saturn is in such and such house doing this, then you make a picture of what that person looks like and acts like, and then you go act like that person. Go dress like that person, go act like that person. Again, I'm not going to do the work for you. My Aruda is Mars in the third house in Libra, aspected by Saturn and Rahu in different houses. So what does that mean? That makes me the esoteric shaman warrior who speaks his truth and writes books. And, I know that because I did exactly that. I did the work to figure out what all that meant. So you do that and then go act that way. And I dress like it, shaved head, I lift weights, talk about spiritual stuff. I'm in your face. That's my Aruda. So you figure out what your Aruda is and then go do that. What else? Nothing else. All right, so I got to go, as you can tell. Got people calling me. I have someplace I got to go. So bottom line is this. Subscribe, hit the bell button, smash the thumbs up button. Thunderwizard.com is the subscription site. Courses.thunderwizard.com is everything and all of my practices and all of my services. More than I can list, so I put it on one website there. Energy healing. Is that what it is? Energy healing? energyhealing.thunderwizard.com. If you want me to give you an energy transmission of this lightning power that I'm talking about, you can go and get that here. I'm not guaranteeing any kind of experience. Some people have had intense experiences. The meditation that I give you to prepare for it in and of itself is worth the price of what you're paying. Even if I didn't do anything and you just did that, the practice that I give you would be worth it. So go check that out. The 90-day challenge, go to thunderwizard.com and click around until you find Warrior 90-day Lightning Qigong, and then subscribe. You only have to commit to 1 month at a time. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. I mean, seriously, people say I can't afford that. Well, I mean, that's the cost of it's the cost of a Starbucks coffee, for a month. Just don't drink Starbucks coffee for a month and you'll have the money, and you'll be investing in yourself. And check all those things out, subscribe, hit the bell button, etc., etc. All right, I may or may not be here tomorrow. I know that I said I would be. It's my plan to be here every Friday at 6:30 p.m. for live, 6:30 p.m. Pacific for every weekly live. I may end up going surfing instead, but I'll try to make up for it in some other way if I don't make it tomorrow. All right, guys, that's it. Have a great day, and I will see you when I see you.